Space horror games combine the best of both worlds for players. And in this video, I will show you the 10 best space horror games or sci-fi horror games that you can play in 2022. So without any further ado, let's start this video. The first game of this video is the Dead Space series. The original Dead Space game was released in 2008 and quickly became the first title that fans thought of when they thought of the space horror genre. It garnered a slew of prizes and eventually evolved into a series rather than a single game. Each game, in general, lived up to the high expectations of its supporters. Players do not take on the role of a soldier, medic, or anybody else who would be familiar with this type of tragedy. Next up we have Alien Isolation. This is a must-play for everyone who likes the Alien film franchise. The honor of portraying Ripley's daughter on a spacecraft taken over by xenomorphs is up to the players. The ships and technology are eerily similar to those shown in the original film, and any genuine fan will be astounded by how perfectly the game captures the film's atmosphere. Next up we have Prey. Prey is a game that distinguishes out because of its gameplay characteristics. Prey, like BioShock, takes the concept of diversified video game weaponry to a whole new level. Crafting and upgrading all of Prey's weaponry is a fascinating and engaging experience, but the terror comes from the setting. Mimics are creatures that may hide in plain sight as random objects in any environment, increasing anxiety with each step toward the character's goal. Number 4 we have Doom 3. In the year 2145, an actual gateway to hell opens, unleashing demons on Mars. The player takes on the role of Doomguy, a figure who must battle demons on the Mars-based research facility. Positive feedback has been received on all fronts for the game, though some may say that it is too action-oriented for horror enthusiasts. It all depends on the preferences of the players. The animals and atmosphere, on the other hand, are unsettling. Next up we have Moons of Madness. Moons of Madness players get into the shoes of a protagonist seeking to discover out what happened to the crew and where the hideous beasts originated from, set on a Mars research facility. Moons of Madness is not only a representation of H.P. Lovecraft's work but rather a translation of it into a future, sci-fi context. Next up we have Solarix. Solarix is a stealth-based first-person shooter set in humanity's first interplanetary space colony that was released in 2015. In terms of fighting and hiding from zombie-like monsters, it is quite similar to Martian Gothic Isolation. It was unmistakably inspired by old-school sci-fi horror games like System Shock. Next up we have Syndrome. In this game, the player awakens from zero sleep to find that their whole crew has died. Whoever or whatever murdered them is still on the ship, and it is the player's responsibility to figure out what occurred and survive. Of course, the player can get weapons, but there is insufficient ammunition to defeat all of the adversaries. So stealth is the best solution. It's not the most elaborate stealth game, but it gets the job done. Next up we have System Shock. Although it bills itself as an action-adventure game, it contains several horror aspects, enough to qualify as a sci-fi horror game. It was well liked enough that a remake is in the works. While the first game has some horror, the second game contains a lot more dread. So, if you're looking for something frightening, the sequel could be more appealing. Next up we have Stasis. Stasis, which was released in 2015, is distinct from the other games on this list in that it uses point-and-click tactics rather than stealth or first-person shooting. The player takes on the role of John Maracek, a man who awakens from hibernation on an apparently abandoned spacecraft. Puzzles, exploration, and a creepy atmosphere are all part of the gameplay. The last game of this video is Dispatcher. The main protagonists are stuck in a space station after unknown monsters enter it, according to Dispatcher. Jump scares are used to surprise players throughout the game. While there isn't as much variety in gameplay, the tension-induced atmosphere is worth mentioning. Above all, Dispatcher excels at emphasizing the stealth components, as the player character must survive the monsters while attempting to flee the station. So that's it for this video. I hope you like my list of 10 best space horror games or sci-fi horror games. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more gaming videos.